Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Salam Media. I'm your host, Thaakir Dawood. I hope you're enjoying the show thus far. Still an interesting show lined up for you. We've got an interesting show that will be unfolding for the rest of the evening. Next up, we're going to be chatting all things cycling. But before we chat cycling, if you missed any of the segments before the Sport Express, you missed the EPL segment where we digested everything happening in the EPL this weekend, looked at teams, looked at managers, we looked at the way the teams are lining up and shaping up. So if you want to prepare your fantasy Premier League team, the previous segment would be one to watch with Mohammed Bamji. He gave us a bit of insight in what's happening behind the scenes in the EPL and what you can do so that you can make the right decisions on your Super Brew, on your fantasy league, and hopefully you can come away with a good couple of points after Sunday's match between Arsenal and Chelsea. But next up, we're going to be chatting to Buhle Madlala. She is from the National Cycling Academy. And we're going to be chatting a bit about cycling, her passion for cycling, everything that she's gone through in order to get to the position she is. So she heads up the National Cycling Academy. They currently consist of 30 cycling academies that are in this forum. And this forum has been brought to the front and has been making headlines all week because they are looking to level the playing fields, or let's say level the track, if you're into track cycling, or level the gravel if you're into BMXing, or leveling the road if you're into road cycling. But nonetheless, Buhle is going to be telling us everything we need to know about that. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining me. I really, really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure to have a chat with you, Tahir.
Look, Buhle, going into this, let's give the listeners and the viewers a bit of a background about yourself. I mean, how did you initially get into cycling, and where did this love for cycling spark inside you that you now head up the National Cycling Academy?
You know, when I tell you, it will sound like a story, because it's your typical life of us growing up in our differences. You know what I mean? So I grew up in a village in Pietermaritzburg. I don't know if you're familiar with the KZN, KwaZulu-Natal Midlands.
Mm-hmm.
So I grew up in the farms there. We were one of the villages that was surrounded by forest, sappy forest, that was used to make timber, make furniture, whatever. So I don't have to tell you about black and white. We grew up different. But if you can remember, there were always bikers in their quad bikes, on the cycling, mountain biking, cross country, dirt bikes. So I grew up watching that around my village. It used to fascinate me quite a bit. So I then had a BMX. I started riding. So the passion was always there for cycling. But then obviously I think I got into my teens and I focused on other sports, but I've always been just an athletic person. But how cycling got back into my life was after I participated on a reality TV show in the country, Survivor, and I was runner up in that show. And I think just as a passion of mine to be outdoors, I then started moving back into cycling with mountain biking with a couple of friends of mine. And that's when we then started making events, small events in our places where we used to stay. And that's where we started finding challenges with, having to do a proper cycling race in the spaces where we grew up. You find that you can't get your race sanctioned because there's certain jurisdictions, there's certain affiliations, there's just a whole lot of fair if you belong to a club and there's a membership that you need to pay. Of course there should be benefits for you in becoming a member. So for people like me, for where I was coming from, it had absolutely no benefit for me to have a membership for cycling, because one, there aren't any premium or professional cycling events in my space. All of them are quite far out in town, so I'll have to spend money with transporting my bike and all of these things. So I started questioning, why can't we stage our own events? And then that's where I saw that there is absolutely no structure, no giving back, no formal anything that has to do with cycling where we grow up. Unlike soccer or cricket, with cycling, absolutely nothing. And that's where I then started investigating and seeing what are really the problems that cause such, because you and I know how big cycling is in our communities. I think we take for granted when we grow up, all of us. I'm sure you had a BMX, I had a BMX. But somehow there's just a ceiling where after that, then you don't know what happens with cycling. Unlike people go into professional soccer, very of our people find a pathway to get to professional cycling. And that's where it all started.
And I mean, looking at cycling, and you now dwelling into administration of the game,
Yeah.
being a female as well on top of it. And I mean, let's not hide anything out here.
Yeah.
Let's
It's not easy.
being a female, being black as well.
Yeah.
What are some of the challenges that you faced, and how are you looking to change the cycling fraternity from behind the scenes so that the cyclists on the saddles can have a smoother ride?
Yeah. So it's quite a difficult one. I think we can't try and filter the reality that we live in. Racism is a part of our lives. I think in as much as we want to be in a dynamic environment where people are seen and treated the same, we're not there yet. So being involved in the administration of a whitest of the white sports, I mean, nothing beats cycling. Swimming and cycling are way there at the top. And if you're gonna try and kind of shake a little bit the status quo, because it's almost like it's an internalized thing that no one wants to talk about, that soccer is for black people, cricket is for Indian people, swimming is for white people. But these are underlying facts, and in trying to unpack and understand why things are so, is then when you are in administration, you get to find out who really invests in these sports, if you know what I mean. And when you mention that being female, the people that put their money in there would not really want to listen to me coming to tell them how to run, their property, so to speak. So it's very difficult to try and be speaking a transformation language into a totally white establishment with a very strong and entrenched European culture, which still has values deep-seated in just where we are and where we stand in society. And I think that the biggest problem is that a lot of people just want to look over that before they can actually try and understand why things remain the way they are. So for me, it was quite important that, there's silly statistics that I will tell you in this country. We've only sent, after Mandela was freed, 30 years almost, we were only able to send one African boy to go to the Olympics, in cycling. It boggles the mind to think that, no, man, we can't still be where we are. But the reality is that we're there. I'm the only black event organizer in the country that does premium sanctioned events by the federation of this country. It's not something to be proud of. There should be more of us who are skilled, who have experience. I mean, I was fortunate enough to work for FIFA for the World Cup when we hosted the World Cup in 2010. So my training and my background is properly entrenched into big events and sports administration at the highest level. But back in cycling spaces, really that experience comes after the barrier of just first dealing with a black woman, you know, and I think it's important for me to believe in what I'm trying to do, and it's plain and simple, just to be who I am and just go forward and do what I know best, what I know what to do. You know, my business is in sport administration. We leverage all our events with sports. I've been doing this all my life. I'm almost 18 years in the sport marketing administration business. So what should I do about my life if then the environment is not conducive for me to work? I just need to make it work. But it's tiring to always try and have to prove yourself over and over again just because, you know, you come in a black body. So it's really is a big challenge. Yeah.
I can imagine. And I mean, you've been in the sporting fraternity for quite a long time and
Yeah.
big events. So when it comes to big events, you're always selling the return on investment to your sponsors. You're always telling
Yes.
them what they're going to be getting out of the deal and how much airtime they're going to get, how many eyes will be falling on their brand
Exactly.
and on their product. So now I'm asking you, as a potential investor who
Yeah.
needs to invest in cycling, and
Yeah.
I hope that somewhere out there, our listeners and our viewers are tuned in. This is the
Yeah.
$1 million question coming up. What is going to be the return on investment for them if they want to invest into your cycling academy forum
Definitely.
and one of the other cycling academies around the country? What is in it for them?
Okay. So the NCAF is the largest structured, formalized academy in the country, national academy. We've got a nationwide footprint. In South Africa, there's 9 provinces. So we've got a footprint in every province in this country. And that is a collective of people that are in cycling, not only as riders, not only as team managers, but these are graduates that are looking for internships because they have studied sports science in school and their passion is in cycling. They want to do development. So the passion with riding, we are part of the federation because we are members of the federation. The difference is that as members of the federation, we felt that we do not benefit with our membership in this federation because there is no investment in grassroots development in spaces where we come from. So it's not that we just are members that are just pushing or trying to drive an agenda of people that are not there or people that are not passionate. We are there. We are event organizers. The challenge is that we just have been excluded over and over the years. So what we are saying is we come from these spaces. We understand what is happening on the ground. We are businesses that have come out of these spaces out of nowhere, out of a vacuum. We have absorbed cycling talent. We are just needing that extra push so that we are able to massively have impact in the spaces that we come from. We have developed our own program. We've got an entire business plan that we've put together. We have a database, which is a list that has ID numbers, riders' names, age categories that have compliant and proper governed clubs and academies. We do our own events. The only difference is that our events are not sanctioned because there is no benefit in us paying over affiliation fees where we can't even go in our backyard and take a ride on a Saturday. You know what I mean? We don't have the infrastructure. So for any investor, or if I were an investor, these are people that clearly are passionate because there really is nothing there for them in developing the sport of cycling. And yet we do come through to where these events are, these premium events are in the affluent areas. We are coming up, we are winning podiums, we are coming up, we are creating very nice events. We are there. We are technical officials. We are coaching. You know, there's guys that do bike mechanics in the township, even though there is no enough customer base, but you find that you have a mechanic probably in every township. You know, so all we need is just support with a bit of infrastructure, and we definitely will get a program running where for what we do, it's still in a very informal space, but on weekends our rides, it's almost like a cycling park run. I don't know if you understand the concept of a park run. Every Saturday we share, we've got a common WhatsApp group. I manage the group virtually, and I remotely monitor everything and everyone, because you know it allows us to do that. The digital age that we live in, it allows us to do that. We have periodic meetings. We vet everyone that is our member. So there is no bogus club. There is no shady underground anything. It's a proper running business that just needs a bit of a boost to then make sure that we nurture the talent that we do have in these spaces. And that is why we started to look at low hanging fruits, if maybe I can put it that way. Easy, quick wins. And for us, launching the In Community Grassroots series makes sense. Because you know, you've seen in all the other cycling nations in Africa, any cycling like Tour de Rwanda, racing there happens in their communities, their spectators. It is exactly what happens overseas with the Tour de France. People are on the streets, they want to see who's racing. We know in anything that we do in our spaces that happens. So instead of waiting and trying to get compliance and trying to lobby government and trying to, because at the moment it feels like we're negotiating racism. To put it bluntly, why is it still a white sport when we exist? You know, why have you guys sidelined development? Why have you not invested? Why must it be a struggle? Why should we always have to ask for things that belong to us? You know, there's policies in this country. You just decide that you're going to exclude people on the basis of their color and where they come from. So for an investor, just support and prove the naysayers wrong and take this country forward, because all of these organizations that still exclude people, they're taking the progress of our democracy quite back. You know, we have gone and done too many strides to move forward for us to be held by little things like discrimination in sport. Everyone is built with their strengths, with their talent. Just let people showcase their talents. There's no need to have these barriers. I mean, we're doing it for ourselves. We want obviously to prove the concept, because we understand also the ROI that you're speaking about from corporate or from any fund. They first want to see that there is a return when they put this money. So we're doing that. Let us show you that we can do it, and let you come through and partner and take these events to the next level. That's ultimately what our plan is.
And I mean, ultimately, an event of this magnitude, how much does it take more or less to run something like this off, to pull it off successfully and comfortably?
So from running the National Academy to also being a kind of a national event organizer, it's I think COVID has changed quite a lot of things. With the beginning of setting up and establishing NCAF, I was stealing a bit of my time from work. So I would speak to my partners and say, this is an investment. Ultimately, we create this concept. We make sure that we structure this organization, and ultimately we become the national implementer of the program. So that was where the investment comes from, but it was not 100% of my time. With COVID and the restrictions, my business actually took quite a big knock because of the restrictions of not having mass participation events. You kind of spectators, there's lockdown, there's, so that time allowed me to invest more in actually remotely running and making sure that I push the academies into really moving forward with this goal and with this idea on why we are a collective in the beginning. So a lot of time is invested in it, but it is always rewarding when you have assisted someone, and when you see a rider that has developed, that is either maybe absorbed by a professional cycling club, or maybe coming up in the top 10 in a premium race. So there's always rewards, because I think at the end of the day, the passion is the same. We are all lovers of bikes. We just love cycling. Yeah.
Definitely. And I mean, this goes way back to our forefathers, our grandparents, and our parents, and many who still use it either for recreational or for solely the mode of transport, getting to work and back. Through sunshine or rain, they have to pull it off. But Buhle, I mean, it's been amazing chatting to you, and I'm sure that there's many listeners and followers out there that have been watching the show. They want to know where they can follow you on social media and follow the academies, so that they can be up to date with everything that's happening. Do you mind dropping some of your social media platforms there for us?
No, it's actually a pleasure. I'd love to share and get some feedback from the public. So for the Academy NCAF, our website is www.ncaf.org.za. And by email, you can contact us at info@ncaf.org.za. And if you want to follow just what the different clubs are doing all across South Africa, we are on all social media, and our handle is @ncaf_SA.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for shedding some light onto what's currently happening in the industry, the cycling industry that is, as well as what it takes to pull off running a successful academy and organization. Buhle, thank you so much for your time this evening. I look forward to chatting to you real soon, and hopefully by then there would be many more cyclists of color on the road, and hopefully they'll be competing to go to the next Olympic Games.
Yeah, we hope to invite you to some of our in-community racing that we will be launching soon. And thank you so much, Thaakir. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much. It'll be such an honor coming to some of those events and looking what our local talent has to show off. Thanks so much. Hope you have a good evening further. Until we chat again.
Have a good evening. Bye.
Thanks. That was Buhle Madlala telling us a bit more about the cycling academy that she runs, and also cycling in South Africa. She's currently from the National Cycling Academy Forum, and she's been telling us a bit about what's been happening in those spaces and how COVID's been affecting them running events and things like that. But that's all from the cycling front. Next up, we're going to be chatting to Tahira Moy. She is a hockey coach, and she's going to be telling us a bit about her journey in sport. As you know, for Women's Month, we have been promising to profile some of South Africa's women doing the things in sport and flying the flag from Mzansi High, just making everybody so proud. So stay tuned to Salam Media. Next up, we're going to be chatting to Tahira Moy.